Agenda 2020-25 partially listed items for FYI only, sourced from online search. Cut overtime protections for 4.3 million workers. Stop efforts to lower prescription drug prices. Limit access to food assistance, which an average of more than 40 million people in 21.6 million households rely on monthly. Eliminate the Head Start Early Education Program, which serves over 1 million children annually. Cut American Rescue Plan, ARP, programs that have created or saved 220,000 jobs. Restrict access to medication abortion. Push more of the 33 million people enrolled in Medicare towards Medicare Advantage and other worse, private options. Expose the 368,000 children in foster care to risk of increased discrimination. Deny students in 25 states and Washington, D.C. access to student loans because their state provides in-state tuition to undocumented immigrants. Roll back civil rights protections across multiple fronts, including cutting diversity, equity, and inclusion-related DEI programs and LGBTQ+ rights in healthcare, education, and workplaces. 6. Cut wages, create unsafe workplaces, and destabilize our economy. 17. Restrict reproductive rights and access to healthcare. 24. Enable discrimination across society. 31. Set polluters loose and undo climate action. 36. Make education unaffordable and unwelcoming. 41. Undermine government's ability to deliver for people. Summary. Project 2025 partial line items, roll back civil rights protections, cut overtime protections, stop efforts to lower prescription drug prices, limit access to food assistance, eliminate the Head Start Early Education Program, cut American Rescue Plan, restrict access to medication abortion, push those enrolled in Medicare towards Medicare Advantage, private options, deny students in 25 states and D.C. access to student loans. 6. Cut wages, create unsafe workplaces, and destabilize our economy. Stop people from earning overtime pay. Project 2025 wants the Department of Labor to make it harder for people to earn overtime pay. Project 2025 doesn't want to raise this threshold. Instead, Project 2025 proposes lowering the threshold and taking away overtime eligibility for millions of workers. Project 2025 proposes to destroy a program that plays a pivotal role in facilitating transformative economic growth for local economies. Manipulate data that businesses rely on to keep our economy functioning. By consolidating the Bureau of Economic Analysis, Census Bureau, and Bureau of Labor Statistics, Project 2025 would kneecap the data collection capacities of these important agencies, with effects felt by working people across the nation. Weaken child labor protections. Project 2025 would amend hazard regulations to allow employers to put young people in unsafe working conditions. 11. Make it harder for Americans to make ends meet. Restrict access to food assistance. Project 2025 would make it harder for people to access food assistance by adding ineffective requirements and reevaluating important programs. Eliminate the Head Start program. Project 2025 would destroy a program that is critical to uplifting children across the nation from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Restrict access to food assistance in Project 2025 would make it harder for people to access food assistance by adding ineffective requirements and reevaluating important programs. Eliminate the Head Start program. Project 2025 would destroy a program that is critical to uplifting children across the nation from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Limit which disabilities qualify veterans for benefits. The authors of Project 2025 think that too many veterans qualify for disability benefits. Remove safety nets for farmers. Project 2025 thinks that farmers are receiving too much assistance. How they do it. Eliminate funding for key public transportation projects. Despite its transformational investments in communities across the U.S., the Capital Investment Grant (CIG) program is a Project 2025 target for elimination. Keep the cost of life-saving medication too high. Project 2025 would undo Medicare's new ability to negotiate lower prescription prices for seniors. 24. Enable discrimination across society, end medication abortion use, or make it incredibly difficult to access. Project 2025 would revoke approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, criminalize mailing medication abortion, or even enlist the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, as part of their anti-abortion efforts. put Black communities and others that have historically borne the brunt of health impacts from pollution and other environmental harms at increased risk. Project 2025 proposes to eliminate the EPA's Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights, enable discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. By misinterpreting Supreme Court precedent and allowing more religious exemptions, Project 2025 would roll back protections against discrimination against LGBTQ+ people and others in the workplace. 31st set polluters loose and undo climate action, make our air dirtier and worsen climate change. Project 2025 would make it even harder for the EPA to take action against climate change by attacking the endangerment finding, cut off weather, ocean, and climate data by disbanding NOAA. Project 2025 would disband the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, which provides critical weather data and insightful scientific research. Transfer environmental funding away from mission-based entities to state regulators who, in many cases, do not support sustainable policies. Project 2025 seeks to undo progress made through the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, by any means necessary. Expand offshore oil and natural gas drilling on public lands and waters. Project 2025 would push the Department of the Interior to allow oil and natural gas lease sales to the maximum extent permitted. 36. Make education unaffordable and unwelcoming. Cut federal loan programs that help parents of college students, graduate students, and immigrants afford higher education. Project 2025 would roll back federal student loan programs that are critical to ensuring higher education is not reserved for only the wealthy and well-connected. Make public schools even more dangerous for LGBTQ+ students. Project 2025 would have the Secretary of Education remove a host of protections for LGBTQ+ students in schools. Push ideology onto funding for international business programs. Project 2025 wants to dictate what students learn in higher education by disproportionately funding programs that push an ideological agenda that they agree with. Make it easier for charter schools to discriminate against LGBTQ+ students. Project 2025 would loosen data collection requirements for charter schools, undoing recent progress made by the Biden administration, which has ensured that data collection better includes transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming students. 41. Undermine government's ability to deliver for people. Replace nonpartisan federal employees with partisan loyalists. Project 2025 would have a future president reissue the Trump administration's Schedule F executive order to make it easier to fire federal employees. Force career experts out of government by relocating federal agencies. While the vast majority of civil servants already live and work outside of Washington, D.C., Project 2025 still proposes to relocate D.C.-based offices in an effort to box out long-serving nonpartisan experts. Administer ideologically biased or discriminatory tests for federal workers. Project 2025 would issue problematic civil service tests for prospective federal employees. Meddle with national security by altering security clearances. Project 2025 would remove civil servants' security clearances and politicize the granting of clearances. All partial information used is from videos, podcasts, social media, and the internet for FYI purposes only of what is online regarding Project Agenda 2025.